Every night is the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Rangers Journal evening Q&A. Obviously, with the new takeover happening, being announced today, a lot of guys maybe didn't catch it earlier on. We done a pod earlier on for a few hours. A lot of people maybe at work never caught it, so we thought we would jump on, have another wee quick Q&A with you guys as well. So put your answers or your questions, I should say, into the comments, and we'll get to them if we can. Tonight, I'm joined by Stevie. Stevie, how are we doing, mate?
Evening, mate. I'm great. I've got one thing to show you. Hold on. Yes, mate. Yes. Yeah, very good, mate. Yourself?
Aye, buzzing the day. Obviously, news broke early on, didn't it? About maybe 11 o'clock. It was going to be announced at 1. And sitting there refreshing the phone, refreshing the Twitter, seeing what was happening. And bang on 1 o'clock, we got the news. And I thought it was brilliant. Even reading it, and then they brought out the extra bit for the fans as well, which I thought was a nice touch. And I liked how they were. How should I put it? Still in the statement saying that they understand how we view it as fans, and they're looking to keep that mentality, no sort of not to worry. So I thought that was quite good as well. It was comforting reading it, as opposed to just like a massive takeover and you don't really know what's happening. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they struck a good balance of the statement and what they were saying. But similar to yourself, like I woke up this morning, I had a feeling that it would happen on a Friday. Obviously, I'm checking the WhatsApp chat and everybody's going nuts early, like 7 o'clock in the morning. Rangers journal chat's going nuts. It's happening. And then Dino, with his morning shot, going absolutely ballistic. And I was like, God, I really hope this is the day, because if not, we're going to look like a bunch of clowns. But it was correct. I think the Rangers journal were the first to actually break that. So it was a great morning. And I just having it confirmed, because it's been in the pipeline for such a long time, you know. And just to have, like you say, it was really kind of measured. The way they discussed, obviously, what's going to happen, how they're planning, and as you say, kind of keeping the Rangers' identity, you know, kind of keeping in touch with the fans. I think that's a huge part of it. So it's very kind of, it's like they're doing it the right way, you know. But this isn't their first rodeo. They've done it at Leeds. They're a huge conglomerate, you know. This is an enormous, like, organisation we're now part of. So yeah, it's hugely positive.
It's like you say, mate. I was buzzing the day. I was in Dundee. I was working. I was trying to get home to go onto the pod earlier to give my views on it, and I just couldn't quite get work tied up and get it finished. I've put up a question to Andy, and guys, like I said, fire your questions in. We'll get to them as we can. It's a Q&A, so we'll take all questions we can on board. How do you view the initial 20 million investment, Stevie?
I think that's just a kind of start-up capital. I don't think that'll be the limit to it. You know, they're not going to come out and say, we're going to spend £200 million, because straight away everybody's like, right, let's add on like a few extra zeros to, you know, what we're demanding for players. So again, quite a smart statement, you know, kind of keep it kind of almost cards close to your chest, if that makes sense. I don't think it's enough to really get where we need to be, but it's certainly a start. You know, you could probably get a decent spine of a team with that, certainly for Scotland. So yeah, I'd expect maybe, you know, 4 or 5 decent players if they spend the money wisely, which I expect they will. But obviously, job one before that is appointing the manager, which I think has been covered before. We kind of expect maybe Monday. So yeah, I think once that kind of ties off as well, transfer window's open and we're off. You know, this season's just finished. It was a dreadful season, but now it's like I cannot wait to get going. You know, it's crazy. The season's just gone, but now we're like, here we go again. It's like actual like positivity and a lot of kind of promise to what's to come.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I think the majority of the 20 million has been earmarked for player sales, or player acquisitions, and I think that it's a good number to start, because it's not too little, but it's also not, like you said, it's not like you're going overboard with it. Do you know what I mean? It's a comfortable £20 million to say, here's the takeover happened, we're putting £20 million in, and like Curry said there, anything that we get from player sales, whether it's like a sort of, if Dessers goes or Ridvan, etc., I think that will then be funneled back into the squad, because it'll have to be. It's not like they're just going to see there's the best part of £20 million and that's your transfer budget. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's a safe amount, like Scott says here. It's a safe amount for the financial fair play as well. you made a point there, Stevie, about, and Gordon's brought it up as well. It's going to be Monday before, or I think it's Sunday actually, when his contract ends it. So Monday before Thelwell starts his job. Do you think then that will be the day the manager's announced, and we'll hear from Thelwell himself?
Yes, I think it will be Monday. I don't think they're going to waste any time at all. I'm pretty sure it's almost arranged or agreed upon. So yeah, and obviously we know, like, this is a great day. Like, don't get me wrong, it's like a tremendous day. Like, long term for Rangers, it's like my kids are going to grow up and have a successful Rangers, which is amazing to me. You know what I mean? I love that. But the here and now, there's so much to do. Like, there's so much to build and work on. So it's not going to be immediate. I don't expect to see like a free flowing, fantastic Rangers straight away. But at least we've now got the kind of, you know, the foundations are getting put in place to build. And with Scottish football, it's not like English football. You know, at Leeds, they could have to spend like £1 billion to get success in England. At Rangers in Scotland, it's not the case. You know, we've had a pretty dreadful season, but we're still miles above third. Do you know what I mean? So what does that say about the rest of Scottish football? So if we add the quality, we should be able to go on and blow these teams away. There's one team that we need to beat and finish above, you know, and that's successful. So, yeah, I think Thelwell will come in, and I think the manager will be unveiled. I might be wrong, but I think it will happen very soon. What about yourself?
I mean, I would love to, like, my heart wants it to be Monday because I just want it to be done, and we can then look forward to it and really dive into who the manager's going to be. But I think that, I don't know, I think it maybe take a few days and then maybe drag out a few days. I don't even know if I seen today that Ancelotti, it was a Spanish media outlet, he tweeted it was 99% done going to Rangers. And again, that excites me. Like I said, I'd love it to be Monday, but I'm sort of sitting on the fence with it. I don't think it will be, just because I think there'll be that much happening on Monday. Everybody will be sort of back to work. It'll be Thelwell's first day, but ideally that would make your sort of Friday to Monday. That would be brilliant, because all we're going to talk about until the manager comes out is this new takeover. Just staying on the manager then, Stevie, who do you think it'll be, or who would you want it to be as well? Just get your thoughts on that.
I think it's Ancelotti, and I want it to be Ancelotti. You mentioned Thelwell there. These guys like Thelwell and Ancelotti have known each other for 5 years. So even though he's not officially in the position, I guarantee it, they've been having discussions for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. There's definitely an existing relationship there. So yeah, I expect it to be Ancelotti. And I'm quite happy about that. The other names, I don't think anybody's really keen on Russell Martin. You mentioned his name in the WhatsApp chat, and honestly, it's like, I was like, no. You look anywhere on social media, nobody wants him. I don't think he's a bad manager at all, but I don't think he's going to be suited to Rangers. Other names, the Ajax boy, ex-Ajax manager, not so keen on him. But yeah, I think Ancelotti makes sense. And Gerrard's not going to happen. So yeah, somebody with a clean slate. He's coming in with quite a high profile. He's used to working with really good players, the best players. He's also going to have a lot of links to Europe and decent players that we can get, even through Leeds or whatever. There's those relationships as well. So a lot of potential. But Ancelotti for me, I think it's done.
Aye. Well, to be fair, Gerrard had a lot of traction sort of through, was it middle of last week? He was being touted as he's got a job. And again, Ancelotti, for me, is probably my preferred target. The boy for Ajax, Farioli, I think he's a close second. And even though he's got more experience because he's been a manager at a few different clubs, I think what tips it in Ancelotti's favour for me is just the fact of the calibre of player that he's worked for or worked with. And listen, that could be a bad thing as well, because he's now come to Scotland to work with some of these players who aren't quite as good as Modric and Kroos and Vinny Jr. and stuff like that. So listen, it could go horribly wrong, but I think it's the most exciting one. And listen, this lad's he's not a job because his dad's a manager. He's had a job and been paid, I'm assuming, really good money because he's really good on the football field. And again, he touched on Russell Martin there. I think maybe his style of football's okay. I don't mind it, but I don't think he's quite the character to go and tell a Rangers team, this is what you need to do and this is how you need to do it. I think the players will sort of look at him as if to say, and not in a bad way to him at all, but as if to say, who are you to tell us? Whereas with Ancelotti, I don't think they can do that. With Gerrard, they can't do that because these guys have been there and done it, not as a player, Ancelotti, but worked with the top players, won Champions Leagues, etc. So again, I think it will be him. I hope it's him. If not, my second would be Farioli. I think he's another really good young up and coming coach. I see a lot of Ajax fans actually unhappy with that, Stevie, that they had sacked him, because he took Ajax for like 5th or 6th last year, right up to obviously the final day of the season, where they hibsed it. Let's be honest. But apparently they were saying, look, we've got the right guy in the door. You've only gave him a year, give him time to go and build, and he dealt with the worst Ajax team in the history. So apparently, I think they're all pretty raging that they've lost out on him. And I know that we sounded him out before Mick Beale, and apparently wasn't experienced enough. And again, now look at the road we're going down. We're looking for a manager that's got absolutely no experience. So it's funny how that works in the swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Aye, you're right. It's sliding doors. It really is. He's obviously a good coach. Obviously, very unfortunate the way the season's ended for Ajax, and that's kind of tainted them a wee bit. But everybody experiences failures. It's interesting to see how he comes back for that. Obviously, a good coach. But yeah, for me, I agree with you. The two of them, I still definitely prefer Davide Ancelotti.
Aye, I'm the same here. Just looking at some of the comments here. Good evening, guys. Feel free to get your questions in. We'll get to them if we can. The more the merrier. Russell Martin, I'll just put this comment up here. They cannot change the way they play after they got promoted. It reminds them of Clermont. Listen, I think there is a point there. I don't know whether it's a stubbornness thing with him. Again, I think Postecoglou falls into that trap as well, with no changing his style of play. That's how he plays, and he's adamant that's going to win. But when you're playing with a lesser quality of team, or you're coaching a lesser quality team, and you're playing against these guys who are worth treble, quadruple the amounts of you, team-wise, it's hard to go and play on a competitive playing field with that. So I completely understand that and take that on board. Stevie, what do you think about it?
Yeah, Gordon's absolutely spot on. You can't not change your style and your tactics if you're a Southampton manager. That was never going to work. And they finished bottom of the league. I think that actually got worse after he left, to be fair. But there's no way you can, not show that. You've got to be far more adaptable and flexible. As you've said, he's went for the Championship, but have done really well. And it's like going into a different stratosphere, going into the Premier League, because as you say, the quality is so much higher. You need to be far more pragmatic. And I think Rangers, if we're saying better quality of players, that's great. We're going to have better quality than most of the league. But ultimately, you still need to be pragmatic. And certainly in certain games, you have to change the way you play. Like you say, a low block or whatever you're facing. Then you've got the European games. He might argue that, his style, maybe not unlike Mark Warburton. He only played one way. If he had better players, it might have been different, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think managers have got to adapt. And even, I think back, I know Walter Smith's like the yardstick, but Walter was always improving. He was always looking to improve in himself as a coach, as a manager. And they're the best managers. You want somebody who's like that. And I think Ancelotti fits that bill. He's obviously been for Napoli, PSG, Everton, Real Madrid. But in that time, he's obviously developed so much. And I think coming to the Rangers, he really wants to thrive. Because, Rangers isn't his end game. He wants to basically follow his dad and be, like a Real Madrid or whoever down the line. So he's got to basically be successful at us. And I think he will adapt his style to suit the Scottish game and the European challenges at the same time.
I agree with you, mate. I just brought this up. Was a fitness coach at PSG at Crown Benefits. I didn't know that it was in charge of the fitness here. I think that for me, what stands out about Ancelotti probably the most is, can you remember when Gerrard came in, how determined he was to make it work? Because it was his first job.
Yeah.
Ancelotti's got that, and people might say it's a bad thing, but he's got that above everybody that he's up against. It's his first job, so any new job or new team you join, you know what it's like yourself. You're determined to make sure that you're going to try to be the best. You're not going to let it fail. It's different with like Farioli and Gerrard, or even any manager, because I've already been a manager. Like Farioli's just lost it in Ajax, so maybe in the back of his mind, he's going into that season thinking, I really don't want to mess this up here after what happened with Ajax. Gerrard's already been here. He's seen what happened the last times in the back of his mind. This guy's coming in with fresh thinking, fresh everything. And I think he'll be very, very determined to, like you said, to make that work, mate. Steve, here's a question for you, mate. any worries at all about the takeover?
Honestly, Curry, no. I mean, the Niners group are a global conglomerate. You know, they're literally billionaires. I'm not saying like we're on the same level as San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, no, that's a different stratosphere again. But just to be involved in that, you know, I think this is like, it really is a new era for Rangers in so many aspects. Like, we have stumbled from like one board to another, crisis to crisis for the last, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever. Obviously, we've had success within that. Like, to think, obviously, we won 55, we got to a European final when the club's not really been run well. So to even achieve that, when we've not been run well, imagine the possibilities and the potential when we're actually getting run by a proper business. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, I kind of want to pinch myself. It's like, for so long, I've always like, oh, I would love an American like investment firm or whatever to take us over, but it's probably never going to happen. And now it's happened. Honestly, see, during the 55 season, right, when we were like 10, 15 points clear, I'd wake up some mornings, I'd be like, is this actually real? Like, I would pinch myself. I'd be like, no, it's real. I wasn't dreaming. We're actually going to win 55 because it wasn't even close. We obliterated them. They folded at the first sign of pressure. So, no, Curry, honestly, I think this is a phenomenal time for us. Obviously, we've not won anything. So I wouldn't say it's like a day for celebration, although I think half the pod are pretty much like steaming the night celebrating like we're doing 56. But it's grounds for like huge optimism. So no, I don't really see any kind of drawbacks about this at all. What about you, Dylan?
Stevie, I'm the same as you, mate. I think that us as Rangers fans have been that scarred the past 10, 15 years that this almost seems too good to be true. And that's why I think we're looking to pick holes in it and say, well, is there a downside to this? I really can't think of any. The way they've ran Leeds, the way the takeovers happened naturally with us, everything's been like above board and nothing's really went wrong. I think it's absolutely, like you said, you need to pinch yourself, mate, when you wake up in the morning. And Curry obviously touches on the Glazer stuff at Man United. I think it's completely different to that. I think these guys already have like a better track record that they've tried to. When you see what they've done at Leeds, when they got majority ownership, they've kept the culture there, they've kept the club there. They sell their best players, spent a fraction of that money on players who go and work for the team, do the right thing. So that full blueprint is what we've been missing for so long. And I just think that as Rangers, the way we were going, rudderless, it couldn't have got much worse. So this takeover can only be a good thing for me. And there was a comment there, sorry, I can't find it anymore. It was to do with sort of getting into Europe and Baz on their hands across the water here. This new takeover that's happened, they only need to maybe put 20 to 50 million pound into us to go and compete. I'm not saying Champions League, right, but in Europe, to win a European trophy, like you said, Stevie, we were in a final not long ago, quarter-finals, semi-finals, whatever it's been the last couple of years. Another 20 to 50 million pound, we go and win that trophy. And I think these guys see that. Another 20 to 50 million pound, we're qualifying for the Champions League every year, and that money's back every single year. So I think that's where they look at us as a massive sort of investment opportunity, as opposed to Leeds. I mean, Leeds will rack money in when they get to the Premier League, and if they stay in there and continue to do well, they will. They'll never get to the European money, but the English Premier League telly money is absolutely huge as well. So they're playing with sort of two giants here, one on the European stage and one on the Premier League stage. Stevie, would you agree?
100%, mate. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You know, I've seen it from the start since I learned about this interest for the Niners group. They're got a special guest. You know, they're looking at a European Super League. I mean, you can make the argument that the Champions League now is the European Super League. You know, you've got 6 teams for England next season, 5 teams for Spain, Italy, whatever. And that's their sole focus. Like you said, England, Premier League, teams are guaranteed between whatever it is. I think it's 130 million to 200 million, depending on where you finish in the league. Champions League's about 100 million. But yeah, they can spend a fraction of the money they need to spend into Leeds, into Rangers. Like you say, 20, 30 million, you can win the league in Scotland. And then it's not just getting into the Champions League, it's having that exposure, you know, the club, their brand, every other week in Europe in the Champions League, top level of football. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. I think Leeds fans aren't best pleased about it, but I think we can easily, coexist. I don't see it as like them a threat to us or us a threat to them. I think it can be a good relationship. Might find that they get whatever, like Raskin for 25 million. Things like that going forward. I think it's a good relationship to have between the clubs.
Absolutely, mate. I agree with you. I think Leeds fans are just a wee bit salty on it. I think they wanted it all themselves, and know that they're maybe looking at their the 49ers or Parag Marak's point of view being split in two different directions here. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Andrew Kavanagh is going to take sort of head charges and Parag will help him out with it. Just going on to then, Steve, on to players sort of sales and training things and stuff like that. Where do you see that, who for you, and take the floor here for a couple of minutes, who do you think that is going to, who do you think, was going to, most likely to leave your squad, I should say, either sales-wise or, obviously, we know that Lawrence and etc. has everything had, so that's all been announced, but, like, is it Dessers, Yilmaz, etc.? On you go.
I think straight off the bat, you've got to look at the two guys at Birmingham, Dowell and Davis. They're going to be off the wage bill. We should get a few million for them because Birmingham are minted. They spent 50 million on that boy for Fulham. I'm not saying we're going to get 15 million, but we should be demanding a decent bit of bunch for the two of them. I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 million. I'll get to you, Curry, in a minute. Just wait. But yeah, straight away, those two gone. And Butland, would you sell Butland if a bid came in? I think, honestly, for me, I think like goalkeeper, like I said before, a spine of the team is what I'd be looking to kind of like really invest in. So if Butland was to leave, I don't think I'd be too fussed. Tav, if an offer came in for like the MLS or Saudi, I think we'd all wish him, all the best. I'm not a Tav basher. I appreciate like everything he's done for Rangers. I think he gets a lot of kind of unwarranted stick. But it probably is about the time for him to go. He could have left last year or whatever, but he never. But yeah, I think potentially Butland, Tav, Ridvan, Jefty. I'm not convinced by Jefty either, to be fair. So there's a fair few, even just at the back, proper. Glad to see him going. So really is a huge, and that's just the defence. I think midfield, and to be happy to keep Raskin and Diamondi. As you said, Lawrence is away. I think Barn will stay. I kind of mentioned it earlier. I've got a wee concern about Barn. Like, as much as I like him, I was thinking about Greg Docherty, when he was pretty decent for us, and then Gerrard came in and he couldn't get a look in and he was off. I wonder, it might not be the case, but I wonder if the manager's going to come in and it's like, right, you can go on loan, and that could be the end of him. Hopefully no. Hopefully he stays. But yeah, I mean, right away, you've got like 7, 8, 9 players there who could all be away. And up front, Dessers and Danilo, yes, I think if we get decent bids, if we're going to sell Dessers, now's the time. 50 goals in 2 seasons, he's done well, as the stats show. Some fans like myself probably disagree how effective he is in big games. Certainly not taking a penalty in the League Cup final shootout. I'll probably never forgive that, to be fair. That's when you know you need to step up. But yeah, I think there's like 11 players probably that could easily be sold, and that could raise a fair bit on top of that 20 million. So yeah, I think we've got a decent transfer kitty, and it's needed because, like I say, I would really like to see half a dozen decent foreign players coming in, and maybe 4 and 5 really good Scottish players as well.
I agree with you, Stevie. I think again, it's not the fact that all the players are going out and they've got all this money to sign players. It's also how you spend that money, and again, it ties back into the takeover and the sort of the levels of the people who are in charge now, as opposed to just maybe Mick Beale having all the money. This money has to go and be spent wisely. And I think, even though it was at Leeds, they've already showed that they sold their superstars, and even though their fans weren't happy about it, the end result is it good enough for the team? And who they've recruited, they didn't need to spend the same amount of money that they lost to bring in the same quality player. The job was done. They won the league. They're out the Premier League, and now I'm imagining they're going to spend a wee bit more to get that calibre player. I think that's obviously, it speaks for itself. The facts are there. I think that's a perfect way, obviously, to run the football club. We us at the moment, it has been all over the place for years, and I think that just, even though we're saying that 20 million is earmarked, It's how that's spent, and I think that's where the likes of maybe Coppin can now go and do his own job comfortably rather than having to be pulled in loads of different directions, and Thelwell's here as well. And I think that's why they're also going down the coach route as opposed to a manager, somebody like Steven Gerrard as well. The coach will just take care of the team on the grass. Obviously, they'll have a say in the player sale, who they buy, sorry. But I think that he'll look for players to then go and fit his system. He'll maybe give a few names out, and then the guys will go out there and do their job. Do you think that's the way it's going to work, or have I got it wrong?
No, I think you're spot on, mate. I think it's very much going to be like the kind of Brighton, Brentford model, where the coach is a coach and he's got everything in place around him, like a proper structure, like you say, director of football, recruitment, scouting, everything is geared towards this is how we play. And you look at those clubs, especially Brighton, even when they lose the manager, because they always do well and the manager goes somewhere else, a new manager gets slotted in and things just keep ticking over because they've got a style of play. They've already identified players they want that fit that existing kind of philosophy. So it's such a change, like you said before, it was such like a scattergun, just surviving basically. Last summer was such a brutal summer, losing a lot of players and not really getting any kind of quality in beyond free transfers. Igaman was good business, obviously relatively inexperienced and raw. Whereas this summer I think is going to be so different. But yeah, that makes absolute sense to me. Just having a structure in place which benefits everybody. And like you mentioned about Leeds, they've got the right guy in the coach in the dugout. They've got the best players at a decent price, and they've got promoted. I mean, I know they never came up like last season or season before last, but they never panicked. They just kept going because they knew it would work, and it worked.
No, absolutely. Curry makes up a good point here. Just going off the Takeover for a minute. And guys, just before we go on to this point, feel free to get your questions in. We will get to them. We've got plenty of time. So me and Steve will try and cover everything we can. Curry said here, off the Takeover, what's your thought on the current of youth players? A couple of names that he was surprised by that's been let go today. Stevie, what was your take on it?
I saw that, but I don't want to sound harsh. How many managers have we had in the last 2 years? We've had Fergie, we've had Baz, we've had Clement, Beale, and nobody really broke through. I know Bailey Rice has had a bit more time this season. I quite like Robbie Fraser as well when he got a bit of time in there. But ultimately, if these guys were good enough, they would have got more time. They would have went out there and made it impossible for the manager not to pick them. And like I say, I don't want to be harsh against these young guys. Obviously, I wish them all the best, whoever they end up at. But if they're going to make it Rangers, would have made it by now. We've discussed it on pods before about how Lowry, we were talking about him one night, and it was like, yeah, there's a real lack of kind of drive. Like Rangers are viewed as a kind of like an easy wage for young players. Like turn up, get paid really good money, and you don't have to really do much or push yourself, which is really not the Rangers I grew up with. For a young player to get in the Rangers team in the 1990s, they had to be absolute balls to the wall, really tough wee guys. And I don't think Rangers have had that for a while coming through. So maybe this will also kind of signal a change in attitude for youngsters. It should, I hope.
Well, let me just read out a couple of names. Lewis Bindinakis, Jay Hogarth, Jacob Paziskas, Jack Harkness, Christian Webster, Leighton Grant, Kerr Robertson, Dan McAnally, Grant Leach, Harry Weir are all moving on. Adam Devine, Cole McKinnon and Archie Stevens will all be moved on as well. Now, for me, that's a couple of players there. When you look at the goalies especially, the likes of Christian Webster, who was not that I follow the youth team, but they were always popping up with goals. Cole McKinnon, Archie Stevens as well. So I think that it's a bit of a clear out, to be fair. More than I thought it would be, but maybe again this is what's coming with the new change, like the new the B team that we used to call it with Lowry and Cole McKinnon and Adam Devine, stuff like that in it. It's just sort of been scrapped now. We're not paying the players' wages anymore, so they can go and find a club. A couple of younger guys as well, but it looks at it. And maybe now they're going to actually build a youth system, I should say, that's going to help the youngsters get promoted. Because let's be honest with you, even if you look across the pond in America, I think that the way that their youth system works into the professional league is 10 times better than what I think we do it. And I think the amount of players that loss out, who are employed maybe from 14, 15, maybe sign a contract, then not to make it to football. I know theirs goes through their skill programme and then it goes obviously through the drafts, etc. But I think that is the way to go. So not that it's going to end up with that over here, but maybe they'll have a better idea of a youth set up system to put in place at Rangers to then help players go and reach that first team.
Maybe. I mean, Archie Stevens kind of surprised me, to be fair. I really like him. But maybe it's a case that they're just, they're going to maybe just start, like, rip it up and start a game with the youth system. But so much is going to get concentrated on the first team and getting back to the top of Scottish football. I've been hearing a lot of people in England and Talksport talking about, England manager Thomas Tuchel, about how he's simply looking at winning the World Cup. That's all he's doing. He's not even bothered about youth players. He's still picking players like Jordan Henderson because he's like, we need to win the World Cup. Maybe these guys are just solely focused on getting back to the top of Scottish football. And with that success, they can grow the youth system more naturally. Because at the end of the day, the more successful the first team is, the more attractive we're going to be younger players. That might be the outlook. I don't know.
I mean, to take a point, Steve, I know what you're saying. Like, we're saying that these players maybe had a big future, but when you look at Alex Lowry, Kai Kennedy, Dapple and Boody, Glenn Middleton, all players who had a high ceiling, who done really, really well, but never really broke through at Rangers, never really done much at Rangers. So, again, and when they left, I thought, I think that's going to be a bad thing for us. We'll miss out. And these guys had never, pulled the ground up. So, just to touch on George's comment here, we'd like to see Penrice, Mulligan, Scottish players, even going in for Miller. I would take Fabianski on a free. Are those the types of players, Stevie, you were talking about earlier, was saying we can get a few Scottish players in?
Mulligan, I'm not so keen on Penrice. If I was going for a left back, I'd like to see Doig. Josh Doig, I think he's a brilliant left back. He's went abroad, he's proved it out there. Cracking player. Other guy at Hibs is Kieran Bowie. I really like him. I think we should be aiming a bit higher. And certainly, who's got there? And Lennon Muller. Lennon Muller would be a great signing, but I think he's going to go to the English Premier League. But yeah, that's what I'd like. Maybe 4 or 5 players like that who know the Scottish League. I know we're getting the boy for Dundee as it is. I think he's a really great signing. Actual goal scoring midfielder who breaks beyond the forwards. We've missed that so much. As much as our strikers get stick, and midfielders haven't contributed enough goals. So yeah, it's a good point for George. Got a few guys who really know the league. But yeah, I'd like to see Bowie, Doig, and maybe, I don't know, try to think of them. Yeah, why not, Lennon Muller, but I don't think our transfer budget will stretch to that.
Nah, I don't think that. You're listening to like Andy Hardy and stuff like that as well. If he ever talks about him, he always says his aim is to go and play the way he's playing at Motherwell every single game. And I think people, like, I don't know if it's Italy, it says he's seen McTominay and Gilmore and Lewis Ferguson that's done, and he sees that's more of his path as opposed to seeing in Scotland. Unless I don't disagree with the laddie. If he can go there and be a starter, then go and do it. Do you know what I mean? Because again, I don't think he starts at Celtic. I don't think he starts every game for us either. I'm not saying he shouldn't or he should. I just don't think he would. Obviously, we touched on Barn earlier. We've got Lyle Cameron coming in. I think Mulligan would be a good addition to it. And then you've sort of got that core of Scottish players in there that, obviously with John Suter as well, if he stays, that I think that's what every sort of successful Rangers team needs in it. Is to have that. I mean, even though if these guys don't exactly support Rangers, you understand what it means that they don't get beat. You know what I mean? They need to win every game. George again brings up Triantis at Hibs, great player. I think he's been robbed this season for shouts for Young Player of the Year and stuff like that. He wasn't in the conversation till really, really late on. But again, I think every time I've seen him, he's been really comfortable on the ball. Silky, he can put himself about. But apparently, I didn't know. I think he's on loan from Sunderland.
Right.
So again, it's Sunderland you'd be dealing with there, no Hibs. I don't know if Hibs are trying to get him, but again, that's somebody, a player that I would definitely be all over.
Obviously, Lauren Shankland. Don't know if I forgot him up to this point, but he's there on a free, so yeah, I'd get him in as well. Drop you a hat.
Would you take Shankland?
Oh, man, I see every pod. I'll go pick him up. The new wants to come to Ibrox. I'll drive him there right this second. He's a leader, Scottish international. He scored 70 goals in 2 or 3 seasons. I'm kind of getting like sick of talking about him, but yeah, it makes perfect sense. Why would you not want him? I've not heard an argument against him coming to Rangers that makes sense or stands up. So yeah, I would definitely. You got to try and argue against him.
No. Listen, to be fair, I'm not as quite as sold as everybody else. I think Shankland is, and I say this right. Feel like maybe I've had conversation with my brother and like other coaches. I coach football, so I see it as, see when Shankland's shooting, he chooses his shot selection really, really well. What type of shot he should take, or what to score a goal. Whereas Dessers or Morelos, if you remember, just used to put his head down and hit the ball. Shankland, if the ball's in a certain position, he'll outside his right foot or inside his right foot or whatever it takes. Do you know what I mean? He's very good at that. He's very good at finishing. And listen, there's an argument for him there. He's good at build-up play as well. For me, I think he has to get a lot fitter. For me, I wouldn't be opposed to him being in at Rangers, but it would be as a third choice probably for me. Somebody that you can bring on that you know will probably score a goal when you're struggling in games. And I think maybe that's what would be missing. Do you know what I mean? I think Shankland needs one or two chances. Dessler needs 40. And you wait up. What would you rather? I would rather the person takes one or two chances, Stevie. What do you guys in the chat think? Shankland to Rangers on a free? There we go, Stevie. The only thing wrong with Shankland's not being at Ibrox 2 years ago. Again though, that's you're talking about the Lennon Miller types of money, maybe not as quite as much, but that's how much they were wanting for him, wasn't it? It was something daft, like £3 to £5 million, and we were just running in a position to pay that at the time.
It was very disappointing because you think like 18 months ago, we should have went out and got, if we'd got him last January, we'd have won the league. I've no doubt about that.
I said the same. I thought he was on fire then, and it got us what it took to go over the line. But at the same time, we crumbled as a team as well then. Shayden Morris, again. Sorry. Shayden Morris and Shankland are both going on a free. I didn't know that. Again, that's another guy that I would take a heartbeat. But is it going to be another, what's his name from Aberdeen, Scott, that we signed?
You lost me, mate.
We signed him to Aberdeen.
Ryan Jack?
No, Scott, the winger, Scott. Is it Scott? Guys, who am I thinking about? We signed him for Aberdeen, tricky winger, and he was always injured. Scott Wright.
Scott Wright.
Aye.
Sorry, I blocked him from my memory.
Aye, exactly. I know. Is Shayden Morris going to be like another one of them type of players who looks brilliant for Aberdeen, but when it comes to us playing against a low block, doesn't quite cut it because he's not got space. Like a lot like Matondo as well. I think that's Matondo's biggest issue. He's trying to play in a third of the pitch with electric pace against sort of a 2v1 all the time. And listen, I'm not advocating for Matondo to stay at Rangers before we start, but I think that's one of our bigger problems as well. We need to start recruiting these players who are able to go and unlock that defence, like you say, Stevie. I think Lyle Cameron's a good example of that because I think he's got an eye for a pass. He's got that forward running from midfield that can go and score a goal. You
make a really good point there, see about Shankland talking about his shooting. It's his decision making. It's his thoughts. It's his thought process. It's like, so, like if you're a coach, like what really separates the good players from the great players is the guys who can think really quickly in that moment. And Matondo's not got that. He's like the opposite of that. So as soon as he goes, the better. Like I've said before, he's like a speedboat without a driver. He's just wild. But like in-game intelligence is like such an important part of it. So that's something we should look at. And we talked about like doing like due diligence on players, like how they train. Like I know you can say like what's their injury record, but like how often do they train? Do they miss training? It's like there's so much you can do. And these guys that are coming in, they're no messing about. I think they're going to go like full. Invest into it. What we got there? Rangers Journal, would you take Leighton Clarkson? Would you take Leighton Clarkson, Dylan?
No.
No, fair play.
So I don't think he offers more than... And listen, I could be wrong. Every time I've watched him, he stood out to me. I think Lyle Cameron stood out in a poor Dundee team. I think Conor Barnes used to stand out when we played against him in an Aberdeen team. Leighton Clarkson, for me, doesn't do that whenever we play against him. But listen, I still think he's a decent enough player in terms of the Scottish League. but just know that to take us to the next step, maybe a decent squad player, but I think it would cost too much to be just a squad player.
Yeah, I agree. I think a guy I really like is Wilson at Hearts, young striker, like really talented player. Obviously, we're getting somebody for Hearts, I want Shanklin, but if it was a possibility to get Wilson, why no? Put a bid in and see if they're, if they're willing to discuss terms. Because ultimately, before when we put bids in for players in Scotland, teams would kind of be like, nah, it's not happening, and it's going to go like whatever. But now we've got the actual bit of financial muscle. We can negotiate. Try and build relationship. We could even loan you a couple of players or stuff. It's a bit of give and take. I kind of want to treat these other clubs with the disdain that they deserve and blow them away, but ultimately, you want to also get like best players.
Also, Steve, it comes with if we've got more money, they're going to know that, and they're going to say, well, we'll hold out for. Do you know what I mean? Whatever we want, 2 million for them. And if that's the way it's going to be, then that's the way it
depends on the length of contract though, because if the player knows Rangers are in for them, and we can offer better wages, they can then push for a move. I think there's more chance of players now pushing for moves to Rangers than there was previously. We're a far more attractive option, and one day we become 100 times more attractive as a club. It's like, aye, let's go to Rangers. I think there's far more possibilities now for players coming in.
Yeah. Just to touch on KW's point here, he honestly wanted Stevie G back, but also back whoever comes in. And I think we're all like that. We'll back whoever it's going to be. Stevie, were you ever sold on Gerrard? I know we've done pods on it, etc. And I've got my point of view on it. I'm happy to share it. But Stevie, I'm wondering, were you ever did you want him back?
I love Steven Gerrard. He won the most important title in my lifetime. And I was there the night we won 9 in a row. Like a real 9 in a row that was won on the park at Tannadice. That was great. But Steven Gerrard's 55 was better. It meant so much. And yeah, obviously we've discussed it between us and like Scotty and stuff. And he's a pragmatic choice because we know he's won it. He built a team from scratch. I know he's got his detractors, but he really did build a team from nothing. Like when he came in, it was like start again. He did get backed. He spent a bit of money, but he built a team that won the league. I know people say, he got 3 years, but like it's normal for a manager to get like 2 to 3 years. That's not a bad thing. You're supposed to give them time, and he got that time, and it worked like spectacularly. Like it was the most amazing season. I know people say it was a COVID season, there was no fans, but everybody was playing to the same conditions. It was just we were better at it. So yeah, I totally saw the sense. KW, I kind of agree with you. I did kind of want him back because I knew that he knows how to get it over the line. He knows how to go to Parkhead and win. He basically kind of like improved and improved and improved. And he was great in big games. To me, he was like Souness. He was a great leader, but maybe not the best coach. Like Souness or Walter Smith right there beside him. I think if he was to come back, he would have needed a really good number 2. And obviously, it couldn't have been Michael Beale. No chance he was coming back with him. There'd been actual riots. I think Michael Beale's up there with Russell Martin and the Rangers fans' eyes. So, no, I couldn't see that happening. But yeah, 100%, I get what he's saying. But I think for like just progressing as a club, I think Ancelotti makes a bit more sense. He kind of suits the new owner's profile, I would say. It makes sense to me. It's a gamble, but so what?
I was just always against it, Stevie. I think that, and I think maybe I'm just a bit salty because the way he left as well about it. But I just think that we really gave him a chance. He had more than a chance. We gave him everything. He got to spend what he wanted on, and he got to pick his players, etc. Now, listen, it worked in the end, and we got that league title that really mattered. But again, it was in a very the circumstances around it with the no fans and all that. I think that played a massive part in it, and I don't want to say that, but I think it did. I think it helped the players on the park. And seeing I look back on it and really reflect on it, the biggest reason I didn't want him back is because he's never been in a title race. And that might sound daft, but see the first 2 seasons, it was up until Christmas. He was in a title race up until Christmas, and then after I went a break, we collapsed. 2 seasons that happened. Then the season we won it, Celtic collapsed. So it's never really went to the wire, and he's got it over the line that way. And that was a big, because I think that's what's probably going to happen. It's going to be tricky. It's going to probably go the last couple of days of the season fingers crossed and it goes out our way. But I think that was my main issue with it. I just think that start afresh, somebody that's going to come in and then we can't blame him for. As soon as you lose a game or draws or whatever, he's going to get it from the section of support didn't want him. Ancelotti will have a lot more time that way. Obviously, we know Blue Jay here says he's pulled out the running because his missus told him no. But I'm not sure how it would have been adapted to being a head coach instead of a manager. Stevie, that's what you were touching on, wasn't it? The fact that he would be a better manager than a head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was never a great coach. I mean, he's the best midfielder of his generation. Do you know what I mean? He really was the best midfielder probably I've ever seen. And it very rarely the greatest players become great coaches or whatever. You know, he's had decent success at Rangers, but everywhere thereafter, it's not worked for him for whatever reason. So I think he's kind of. I wish he'd stayed. You know, I kind of agree with you. I'm disappointed the way he left. I don't blame him for going to Aston Villa, but it was just after Walter had passed. It was about 2 weeks, and to me, it seemed like a really bad decision making to go at that time. And I think if he'd stayed, I think we'd have probably won the league that season. We'd already had 56. I don't think we'd have got to the European final because Gio was definitely better the way he adapted to Europe. But yeah, I think if he looks back, I'm pretty sure he regrets leaving Rangers the way he did and at the time he did. If he'd stayed longer, he still would have got an opportunity in England. But again, sliding doors moments, you know, it's like if he'd stayed, he might have gone to a better job. But ultimately, I kind of agree with you. I don't want him back.
Right, and listen, I know it's a popular choice, and I think probably most of the fan base that I heard, even on listening to the scoreboard and stuff like that, and looking on Twitter, wanted Gerrard back. And I think it's easy to understand because of what he done and what he brought. Yeah. But I think when you look at it as a whole package, I think because of how starved we were, we look on it a bit more fondly than what it was. Because I think the season we won the league, we should have won a treble. We should have gotten into the Champions League. We should have beat Malmo. And again, I hope that against the players as well. Do you know what I mean? The players back then were throwing it in. Some of them, it was ridiculous. But like I said, he's pulled out the running. But I just thought I'd get your points on it. Guys, last couple of questions before we wrap it up. If there's anything to ask, just put it in the chat and we'll get to it. Let's see. On this, Stevie, on George's comment here, and again, I think this is what a lot of fans who wanted him say. He wasn't backed. I disagree with that, and it's not a Gerrard pod. We're not getting into it, but just in terms of the takeover, new manager stuff, I think that his remit was get European football and you'll be backed, like Gio did. He wouldn't have been backed as much as he was if he didn't get into the Champions League, and that's probably the money that Mick Beale got. Mm-hmm. That Gio got for the Champions League, do you know what I mean? And I think that I know what you're saying, he wasn't back, but how much more back do you need if you've won the league at a canter? You've added a Sakala, a Lundstram into it. Nobody was saying it. We needed players now. Listen, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Looking back on it, we could have been doing a few better players. But again, I think that was if you win the Champions League, you'll have your transfer kitty, and we can then go and fund that for you. But he never get through the qualifier. So again, then he says he wasn't back to the left for Villa. What do you make of that, Stevie? Do you agree with it, or do you think that it was hard done by?
No, I tend to agree with George. I think it's a good point. You know, I really hate that. Like when they want them to get into the Champions League and then they'll back them and guarantee you're going to get into the Champions League. Give them that actual chance, like whoever he wants. And then you're going to make it back. I understand it's a risk and whatever, but that to me makes more sense than like gambling with the existing squad and then getting knocked out and then it's like, all right, disaster. You know what I mean? It's just common sense. And to be honest, bringing it back to the takeover, I think they will back him, before these qualifiers because they've got to, because their goal is to get into the Champions League and they've got the financial muscle to do so. Whereas back then, maybe we never. So circumstances obviously changed dramatically. Yeah. But yeah, I tend to agree with George. It was an unfortunate situation, but how many bad decisions have we seen by continuous boards in the last 10 years? So it wasn't really a surprise.
No, that's it. Excuse me. Off the top of your head, Steve, any American players you think we could sign?
God, you've thrown me a curveball there, mate. To use American slang, I don't know. I've got great memories of old Rangers players, like Mo Edu, the Beasley and whatnot. But I've got to be honest, I don't know a great deal about the current US squad. I think the last team's probably much better than the guys.
Nah, me either. I don't, guys. Feel free to hit us up with some players, decent players. I don't, apart from Alec Tillman, we know we're not getting him because he's absolutely, he's flying now. What could there be there? Comment here saying Reina. What would you take? Do you think that would be a good sign? Or again, he's quite injury prone. Is it just because his dad played for us? That's where the link's coming from.
I think he's obviously got a fair bit of talent. Should have been Borussia Dortmund and he'll be a good player. But yeah, it seems a bit kind of I don't want to say Matondo, but I don't know. Seems like one of these lads who gets a knock and then that's him out for 3 weeks. He's always out for 3 weeks or whatever. But yeah. I mean, it's imagine living up to your dad. That's Claudio Reyna. What a player he was! Absolute machine, a guy.
KW
like,
says here, I know it's a pipe dream, but Seaman Cherny back. I don't see Cherny coming back. I really don't. But Abdallah Sima, if I could pick one player who I would happily have back at Rangers, it would be him in the past couple of seasons that we've had. Obviously, Tillman, but he wouldn't come. But Sima, I don't think he wanted to leave. I don't think with the financial muscle to keep him. And I just loved how he carried himself. I just thought he was a quality player. Popped up with goals from right or left or up front. Scored against Celtic. So all these things play into it, do you know what I mean? And I think he really enjoyed his time here as well, Stevie. What do you make on the links? Or not
100%. Yeah, 100%. Simo was it's funny because his first few games you're watching, you're like, there's definitely a player in there, but he just seemed really like no confidence. And as soon as he got a goal, it was like, oof, and he was off. There was no stopping him. I don't know if he's got a contract or not now. I think he must be coming near the end of his contract, but
I think Brighton have now said that they're allowing him to sell him. I think that they kept loaning him out. They were obviously he had like 3 or 4 years on it, but I think now I seen a report not long ago on Twitter. I think it was saying that he's now sort of became available for anybody that wants to buy him. They don't want to keep him type thing. But again, was he not? He's playing Champions League football this season.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Wait, is it Stade? Is it Stade Brest he plays for?
I think so.
I can't really remember, but again, I seen him playing against PSG earlier on the season, and the team just they set up because they were really defensive and were trying to hit the counter attack, and they wasn't really playing into his style. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But that's definitely a player that I would.
I'd say as well on that, like these are two cracking players. Cherny, probably the best player this season, one of the best players. Not that it was a great set of competition, but Sima last season. But see now, like we're involved in this conglomerate, Leeds, whatever. There's going to be a scouting network that we've only just tapped into like straight away that's available to us. There's probably going to be players that you're going to hear in the next 4 or 5 days you've never heard of before, but they're going to be quality. So there's so many more markets have just opened up to Rangers. What's Blue Jay saying?
Guys, we'll make this the last question because I'm sure it'll run on for a wee bit here. Do we sell Raskin and bring in 3 or 4 players with the cash, or do you give him a contract extension with a buyout clause, make him happy and build a team around him? Stevie, you can go first here, mate.
I swear Blue Jay's clairvoyant because I've been saying it for 2-3 weeks that Raskin should be kept and made club captain. 100% agree with that. To me, it's a no-brainer. Give him a new contract, 3 years, whatever. Buyout clause, 25 million. He's just broke into the Belgian team. He looks really happy. He must look at the takeover and thinking, this is going to get really good. I want to be part of it. Great point, Blue Jay. I totally agree. Like I say, I've had the same thought for a while. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and listen, I agree. I would love nothing more for Raskin to say the only thing it depends on is will he sign a contract extension. I think he probably will if you put it in front of him. Mm-hmm. Make him maybe the highest paid player in the team. Make him your star man and say, right, we're going to build a team around you. This is what we expect. But if a big bid comes in, we want this for you. And that'll be the buyout clause, whether it's 25 million. And if he's happy with that, we'll make him captain and go ahead with it. I think he's just starting to hit the heights of being the best. I would arguably say the last sort of couple of weeks here. I know maybe none to play for, but even maybe since Christmas, for me, he's arguably the best midfielder in the league. Mm-hmm. And I know it can change sort of game to game, but the game against Celtic that we played, I think 3 times or twice in a row we get man in the match.
Yeah, scored as well.
Yeah, So he's bossing it in there, and then went for the Belgian national team. Get rave reviews, get standing applause for when he came off the park. So again, I think the wee man's flying now, and the best thing you could do is keep him. Again, if he doesn't want to stay, then you've got to look at selling him, and that's just where we are. But I think you're right, Blue and Stevie. I think that definitely build a team around me asking. Stevie, before we wrap up, mate, anything else you want to bring up or say before we go?
It's been a great day for Rangers, mate. You know, there's just so much to look forward to now. There's a lot of work, like there is a lot of work to come. But, you know, imagine if there was no takeover. You know, I'm not saying we're going to go to 156 next season, but it's going to happen sooner rather than later now. Whereas before it was, who knew it was going to happen? So nah, this is a great day for Rangers. Delighted for everybody at the Rangers Journal, all the fans, my kids. Not over the top here, but nah, it's a tremendous day for Rangers. Delighted with it.
Good, mate. Brilliant to hear. Brilliant to hear. Guys, thanks for your comments and your questions again for keeping the pod going. If you like what you see, like what you hear, like, share and subscribe it. And remember that every night is a Rangers Journal night. Cheers.